It's funny how the most serene moments in life seem to magnetically attract chaos, especially when there's a Karen involved. Last Saturday, the soft early morning light spilled over Lake Ranch, that little slice of paradise I'd hosted family picnics, reunions, and quiet retreats at for years. But this wasn't just a casual get-together. This was a small private weekend retreat for a handful of lifelong friends, people I trusted with my life. Some of us had met during our first tours, others later in specialized field operations. We'd all served in the SWAT division at one point or another, though most of us were now retired or had moved on to federal agencies. This weekend wasn't about trouble, just barbecues, stories, and a few laughs over the times we'd breached doors and saved lives. The HOA, however, had a very different idea. Lake Ranch sits tucked within a gated community overseen by a homeowners association that had long ago turned into a parody of itself. And at the very top of this absurd hierarchy, Karen. Her real name's Janet, but everyone in the neighborhood, and even some on her board, quietly called her Karen behind her back. She's the type who patrols lawns with binoculars, measures trash bins for proper alignment, and can call emergency meetings over the shade of fence paint. It was about 9:30 a.m. when Karen first appeared. We were unloading gear from trucks, coolers, tents, folding chairs, and a few duffels that looked tactical enough to catch her attention. Her SUV crept to a stop near the gravel parking pad. Windows down halfway, sunglasses perched on her nose like a judge about to deliver a verdict. She didn't even step out. She just raised her phone, snapped a few photos, and backed off like she'd stumbled onto a crime scene. Ramon let out a chuckle. That's a recon drive. She's calling someone. Sure enough, 20 minutes later she returned, now standing at the overlook, phone to her ear, pointing down at us, pacing like a mall cop with delusions of grandeur. She thinks we're squatters or something, one of the guys muttered. We didn't think much of it. We weren't breaking any rules. I owned the property, after all, and had every right to host friends. Then came the sirens. From the top of the entrance road, 2 police cruisers and a marked SUV barreled down fast, lights flashing. Karen practically danced in triumph, arms crossed, lips curled like she'd just rescued the neighborhood from imminent doom. She had no clue what she was about to walk into. The squad cars screeched to a halt, gravel crunching under tires as officers stepped out with the precision of people expecting to write parking tickets. 2 uniformed cops looked serious, one hand casually resting on his holstered sidearm. A third officer emerged from the SUV, clipboard in hand, scanning the scene as if unsure what he'd just been summoned to. Karen stormed up like she was part of the operation. "There they are!" she cried, pointing at us as if we were some criminal cell. At least 15 of them, bringing in all kinds of suspicious gear. Military bags, camouflage jackets, tactical boots. This is clearly a gang hideout, or worse. One of the officers nodded politely, hiding an eye roll. "Ma'am, we're here to check a report of a large, unauthorized gathering. We'll talk to the owner." That's when I stepped forward, hands open. "I'm the owner. This is my property. Everyone here is a guest. No laws broken, no noise complaints, no trespassing." Karen spun toward me. "Don't lie. You don't even look like a homeowner. You've got bearded men unloading black duffels and military gear. Who are these people?" Before I could answer, Officer Barnes, the one with the clipboard, stepped closer, squinting past me. His eyes landed on Ramon, lounging by the grill in a T-shirt that read, "SWAT retired, not expired." Then they found Dan, our former team medic, leaning on a folding table covered in trauma kits he still brought out of habit. Barnes blinked. "Wait a second. Is that Sergeant Vasquez?" Ramon looked up. "Barnes? From the 2017 Tactical Refresher in Sacramento?" Karen froze mid-rant as Barnes broke into a grin, striding over for a handshake and half-hug. "Man, it's been years. Didn't know you were with this crew?" "Yeah," I said. "We all served together. SWAT Metro Division. Some of us still active, some retired. Just a little reunion. Burgers, beers, nothing criminal." Karen's face went pale, her smug authority crumbling into wide-eyed disbelief. "Wait, you're police?" Dan smirked. "Technically, SWAT, just a little higher up the ladder." Another officer wandered over, visibly relieved. "I thought I recognized a few of you." You're the team from the Lakeview hostage case last year." Karen's expression had fully collapsed. Her confidence evaporated into sheer astonishment as she looked from face to face, realizing she'd just tried to call in law enforcement on a group of elite officers. "You mean all of you are police?" she stammered, eyes skittering across our group. "Not just police," Ramon called out without missing a beat, still manning the grill with that crooked grin. "SWAT, commanders, current and former. This little get-together? It's basically a reunion for the folks who show up when things go sideways." A low chuckle rolled around the cluster by the fire pit. Karen went rigid, frozen in the exact moment her smug certainty evaporated. Officer Barnes, keeping it professional, turned back toward her. "Ma'am, I don't believe any laws have been broken. The property owner's here, there are no noise complaints, and as for the gear, well, it's probably safer here than on any street block." But I thought they were, dangerous," Karen sputtered, her voice pitching up an octave. One of the younger officers couldn't resist. "They are dangerous," he said with a laugh, "but only to criminals." Karen's face flushed a dozen shades of red. "They didn't check in with the HOA. There are protocols, forms. No large gatherings without board approval." She babbled as if paperwork could conjure authority. I stepped forward, phone in hand, calm as always. "Karen, I've owned this property for 10 years. It's outside the HOA's jurisdiction. I've told you that 3 times this year. The deed's clean. I pay the county directly." I pulled up the survey plat and flipped through the documents until I found the page I wanted. "But the lake," she began. "Nope," I said, tapping the screen. "This lake and the lot were purchased privately before your HOA was even formed. County records will show it. If you want, call the records office yourself." A younger officer leaned in to read the survey over my shoulder. "Yep, that checks out. This is private property." That was the moment the look finally hit her, a comprehension so sharp it was almost physical. She hadn't just been mistaken. She'd escalated, mobilized emergency responders, and now every word she'd screamed was sitting in the department's body cam footage. Barnes turned to her, voice polite, clipped. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to refrain from calling emergency services for non-emergencies. Misuse of 911 resources is a serious matter. Consider this a formal warning." Karen hovered between fainting and fury. "But I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." "We are the neighborhood," Dan muttered under his breath, and a few of us snorted. She stood there like a deflated statue, someone whose entire career of policing grass length and mailbox paint had just been reduced to embarrassment in front of an actual task force. The officers exchanged nods and headed back to their cruisers. Barnes lingered a beat longer, swapping one last story with Ramon before climbing into his SUV. Before he pulled away, he shot Karen a look. Tired, not cruel. "Please don't call 911 again unless there's a real emergency, ma'am. These gentlemen are more than qualified to handle themselves." They peeled off down the gravel drive, tires hissing and lights off, leaving behind only the faint ghost of burned brakes and Karen's utterly shattered pride. She didn't speak. She turned on her heel and marched back up the trail to her car, shoulders stiff, mouth set like she'd swallowed vinegar. When her SUV slid away, the silence it left was louder than any siren. Truth be told, no one missed her. "Think she'll come back?" someone asked. "If she wants to be in a training demo," Steve, our old breacher, joked, and that got a genuine round of laughter. The rest of the weekend passed without incident. The lake glittered under a late afternoon sun, steaks sizzled on the grill, someone inflated a couple of paddleboards, and an old radio spun the same dusty playlist from our academy days. It was an evening that made you remember why we did the work, not just the adrenaline and the missions, but the bond, the quiet brotherhood that meant you really were one call away from someone who'd have your back. That night, under a sky hammered with stars, we sat around the fire pit mostly in companionable silence. An occasional quiet laugh, the clink of bottles, the pop of firewood. Somewhere off in the brush, a coyote answered the moon. Bet Karen's still Googling how to file a noise complaint on law enforcement, Dan murmured, and that sent another ripple of laughter through the circle. When the weekend ended, none of us wanted to leave, but we all knew the ritual. Stow the gear, coffee and thermoses, one last group photo at the dock. Karen never returned. News ran fast through the neighborhood, and by Monday, people were texting to ask if we planned another tactical retreat. Apparently, the block felt safer that weekend than it had all year. As for Karen, she's been unusually quiet since the incident, though I did notice a brand new "No Trespassing" sign planted on her front lawn, facing inward toward her own house like a shrine of spite. If you enjoyed watching an HOA Karen get absolutely humbled by a squad of off-duty SWAT commanders, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Got a wild HOA story of your own? Drop it in the comments. I might feature it in an upcoming video. And if you love stories where justice gets served and Karens get schooled, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a satisfying takedown. Thanks for watching, and remember, always know who you're calling the cops on.